Hey guys, what is up? It is Philbo, and today we are going to be looking at the Charged Whirlwind build. That's right, we are looking at Whirlwind, one of the most iconic builds that you will find in action RPGs, and for good reason. Why do we love Whirlwind? Well, it lets us spin to win. It's solid, straight to the point, and lets you do damage on the run. Definitely an S tier for builds you can play with one hand. Now, the variant of Whirlwind that we have here is Lightning. We'll be converting it to lightning damage, and we will be using the spell Charge Release as the activated spell. Charge Release is insanely strong at the moment, and it applies shock for us. This build is absolutely amazing for farming. It's so good at it that your pet's going to be asking for a raise. That being said, it's not the highest damage out there, but in my opinion, it still puts out a respectable amount of damage. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the details. So we're going to start off with the skills that we're using. Whirlwind is, of course, our primary ability. Whirlwind is a channeling skill, and you hold it down, it spins, and you can move while you're spinning. So spin to win, right? It will be doing lightning damage with our setup, and what we're going to do when we awaken it is this damage taken dampening while channeling. The other two have their pros, but I think that this is by far the best awakening. This dampening is just too nice to ignore. This is going to add a lot of survivability to our setup. The next ability we have and what we're activating to is going to be Charge Release. So as we're whirlwinding, we will be casting Charge Release. Charge Release is just going to send out a bunch of electric balls. All right, so easy. It's going to apply shock for us, so that's great. And the other thing is that the other thing we have to keep in mind is that as we have more projectiles, we get more amplification. So up to 20 additional projectiles will give us 2% more damage amplification. So we want to get this charge count up to at least 20. The way that we're going to do that is by awakening it. Whenever we awaken it, we are going to choose this source awakening to get the extra projectile count to get us up to 20. So you want at least 6 in your awakening. If you don't hit 6, you get less than that. You might want to awaken it again until you get at least 6. It's also going to increase the angle and essentially allow us to shoot these charge release balls out from almost every single direction. So that is charge release. For our movement ability, we are going to use roll. Now, the other option that we have would be penetrating slash, and I think penetrating slash is an amazing skill. However, there seems to be more animation lag between penetrating slash and going back to channeling whirlwind than there is with roll. You can use either one. My preference is roll. For our enhanced skills, we will be using tenacious regeneration for defense, essentially just a health potion, as it will give us a instant recovery of a certain percentage of our max HP and then give us a huge boost to our HP regen. Siphon Life can also be used, but I think Tenacious Regeneration works better in more situations. And for our attack enhance, we will be using Release Element, just a big element damage amplification boost. We don't get any benefit from cast speed, but no worries there. It's still the attack enhance we should be using. And then for our final slot on our primary skill bar, we've got a couple things you can do. I'm using a rapid seal, the seal of condensed elements. So seal of condensed elements is just going to give us a burst of element damage. It works basically just like an attack enhance. The way that you get this is you have to have the seal and then you awaken it to this rapid seal skill. This will change it from a toggle ability to an on-use ability. So that's how you would get that. That's what I'm using. You could also use Bloodshed. So Bloodshed, the interesting thing here is that whenever you make an attack, it has a chance to spawn this Domain of Blood, where you get damage taken dampening and attack speed amplification. So you hit a mob, and it has a chance to spawn this Domain of Blood. Now, if you're going to use this, my suggestion is that you link it to Illusion Hook. So you would spell activate to Illusion Hook, and the reason you would do this if you're using Bloodshed is because Illusion Hook is going to give us a vulnerable effect on all foes, which dampens their movement speed and their attack slash cast speed. And then we're going to awaken it to get a pain effect. Pain effect is going to add 10% damage taken increase, and we'll also get 50% more. This setup right here is pretty nice. Then from there, you would also attach the cut link rune to both so that you could potentially get the cut effect on top of the pain effect from Illusion Hook. So this is a potential setup that you can have as another skill. It's really strong. I recommend it, but if you want to go for the easy mode and not have to worry about proccing that in the middle of Whirlwind, then just go for a rapid seal. Finally, for seals, we are going to use the Seal of Critical Chance, as I think this is the best one if you're not crit capped. If you are crit capped, then the other two options you would have would be Seal of Condensed Elements. I'm using that as a rapid seal, so it would be Seal of Striking in my case. But I think Seal of Crit Chance is the best for when you're not crit capped. So this is what we'll be going with. So for Whirlwind, the link runes that we have, the first one, convert lightning damage. We need this one. All of our gear, our zodiac, everything is aimed at building up our element damage. And we want to share the same damage type that we have with our main skill, which is charge release. We're activating the charge release, but keep in mind, charge release is going to do more damage than Whirlwind, but converting Whirlwind to lightning is going to increase its damage significantly. It just makes sense. The next link rune we have is Fighting Spirit. This link rune is fantastic, adds strike damage amplification, and it gives us physical damage and element damage dampening for Fighting Spirit stacks. So this is going to give us so much survivability, so we got to have that. Grand Approach is also going to be giving us a lot of damage and regeneration of health. So we're going to be able to regenerate a whole lot of health back, so survivability there. And the closer we get to enemies, the more damage amplification we'll receive. So to get the most out of this, you'll be wanting to hit enemies up as close as possible. Quick attack. Getting attack speed capped on this character is going to be somewhat difficult, so I recommend using quick attack. It's going to add so much damage, not just to your Whirlwind, but to your charge release, because this activates whenever this attacks. So more attacks happening with Whirlwind means more charge release, and that's where we're getting most of our damage. So gotta have quick attack. And then for the final link, I'm using Savagery just to make farming easier. This build is primarily for farming, so getting weapon range increase on our Whirlwind is going to be better for farming. If you want more damage, you can use some other runes, but this is what I'm using right now. We're then going to be activating to charge release, and concentrated area damage is going to give us a massive damage increase. Element damage amplification is another great rune that's going to add more damage. Strike rune, very straightforward again, more damage. And then Mana Storm. Now, Mana Storm, you may or may not want to use depending on your mana situation. I've got my mana situation under control, so I'm using it. The final one I'm using is Slaughter. If you're really low on crit rate, you could use Find Weakness, but I'm using Slaughter. It seems to be adding a lot of damage, but Find Weakness would be another option here. I'd also recommend Spot Weakness. Spot Weakness can be added, and it does something similar to Grand Approach, except for projectile. It has the projectile tag on it, so it can be attached to charge release. The closer you get, the more damage you do, and it adds survivability. So I think Spot Weakness is great. Another one I would recommend here could be Lightning Penetration. So Lightning Penetration is also really, really nice for this build. For your toggle runes, so your Seal of Critical Chance, and then whatever you use for your defensive seal, definitely have a dampened resource cost. You get this through the guild box, so have that. This is going to help your mana situation out a lot. For your movement ability, roll or penetrating slash, whatever you decide to go with. There are a few link runes I can recommend, but disarm is a must-have. This drops the cooldown of your movement skill so much, so you got to have that one. And then for your enhanced skills, again, a few link runes you can put on, but the two I recommend the most and that are must-haves in my opinion are increased duration. It's going to increase the duration of your enhanced skills, and then time acceleration, which lowers the cooldown. So got to have these two. So moving on to the zodiac stats, my recommendation is that you get 200 stats for dexterity, and the reason why is our goal here is to get this zodiac trait 40% damage if strength, dex, and int is 200 or more. So we need 200 in dexterity for that. Intelligence, you get as much as you need for charge release. So charge release is going to take a fair amount of intelligence, get the minimum amount you need for that, and then pour the rest into strength. It is that simple. If you're having trouble getting the 200 you need for dexterity, don't worry about it. We don't need that point, but if you can, the 40% is really, really nice. For the traits, 3-1, we're going to take this bottom route here in Aphros. 3-2, we are going to be taking the dodge. We'll take this middle node as well. 3-3, I take the first 3 right here to get this 4% attack speed. And then I take these 5 for mana efficiency. These are big. If you're doing well in mana, you can drop these and add it for some other points in damage. 3-4, we are going to be taking Prel. Damage upon attack. Grab the resist you need the most and grab dodge rate or armor. If you're running low on armor, grab the armor instead. In tree 5, we're going to be taking these 5 points right here. In tree 6, we are going to be going all the way to the right here on this middle path and this bottom path to get the attack speed and the attack crit damage. Tree 7, I'm taking these first 3 points just for some extra HP. If you have plenty of HP, you might not need these, but I'm wanting some extra HP, so I'm taking those. In Maggot, I am taking this. Remember, we need the 200 dexterity, strength, and intelligence for this. So I'm taking that. And I'm grabbing these 2 in strength to get this area damage. This area damage is going to give us damage for our charge release. And then we can just grab this one on the side here to get the melee damage, which affects our whirlwind. And then you go up 1 point here. If you need the extra dex, take it instead. But we're just going here to get the projectile damage. This is also going to affect our charge release. In Scent, we are going to be taking up to here to the damage against elites. You could drop 2 points somewhere to pick up the damage from elites decrease. This is actually a really good node right here that I recommend. Then in Plague, we will be taking all these points right here. Again, these 2 points down here can be dropped if you want. Pick up the armor and the damage from elites decrease if you want. The rest of them I would take. These 5 points here in Farmer are really nice for the health points. And then in Hunter, we're going to be going all the way right to the right here to get Time of the Hump. In our specialization, I'm going with Hammer. A lot of people go Brilliance, and they say they get more damage in Brilliance. I've not experienced that in my testing. It might depend on your gear and your link runes and all that and your entire setup. I've been experiencing really good results with Hammer, especially I think if you're not close to attack speed cap. This one is good because you can pick up Uplift here and get the Uplift effect. I'm also grabbing a little bit of weapon range just for our Whirlwind, and then I'm coming down and grabbing Overpower and the strike damage amplification. You can play around and see if you get more damage by dropping those 3 points to Uplift here and weapon range and picking up the damage amplification at the bottom here. So that could potentially push more damage. For me, I've gotten more damage in my setup this route, simply because I'm not attack speed capped, and like I said earlier, the faster you attack, the more charge release you do. So this has been working really nicely for me. And then I come into Wrath here, and then I'm picking up acceleration, damage amplification, sharpness, and I'll get this attack crit rate and crit damage whenever I get my 9th point. In the final tree, I'm opting to go for Bonfire for the attack speed amplification, punishment, the 9% HP amplification, and the strike damage amp. So for the gear, there's nothing special here. I won't go through all the pieces. Mainly just get enough armor to get close to armor caps. We're looking here. We can go check out our defense and we can look at our armor. You'll want to try and bump this up as close to 75% as possible. And then I'd throw in dodge. Personally, I think a case can be made for barrier pieces. If you're in Origin, definitely choose barrier pieces if they drop like really good stats on them. Hybrid barrier pieces. But personally, my preference is for dodge. I like the avoidance a little bit more. You want to make sure that when you go to your defenses, you're seeing high resist. Obviously, poison resist is something I still need to work on. I'll be mapping and I'll get hit in almost 2 shots sometimes by a poison mob. So it's a big problem. Getting these resistances up is a must. Having a decent amount of HP, I think, is important as well. So make sure you're looking for HP on your gear. Right now, Season 2, I think 10,000 is a good place to start at. But you also want to make sure that you're looking for damage on appropriate pieces. So your hands are a good source of damage. You can get attack speed, crit damage, crit rate on them. So that's important. Your necklace, you're going to want to look for flat and percent element damage. So flat lightning damage and percent element damage. The rings are huge for damage. So on the rings, you're going to want attack speed, attack crit rate, attack crit damage, and element damage. Those are the things you want to look for on the rings. If you're having mana troubles, your belt, you can get mana cooldown recovery and mana potion effectiveness. Those are big source of mana sustain. So look for that on the belt if you're having issues. And then of course on things like the boots, you got to have movement. So the weapon is the one piece you got to get really, really good in our gear. All your damage is going to scale off of the numbers you see on your weapon. So attack damage, all your damage scales from that. Speed, all speed and speed increases scale off of that number, and the same with crit rate. So if we're talking about stat importance on your weapon, you're going to want to make sure you get something with crit rate first, because you're going to want to get to crit cap as soon as possible. You do so much more damage when you crit because of the way that critical damage scales. So you want to make sure crit rate is on your weapon. Then I would say attack damage and attack damage percent come next, and then gear speed after that. So that is the level of importance for weapons. Of the two, attack damages, percent's probably more important. And then after that, if you can get attack critical damage on your weapon, that's what I would grab after that. In terms of importance, everything else is behind those 5. That's my quick rundown on gear. As far as charms go, what you're going to want to look for is Castor is going to be the first thing that you want to get to 140 blessing. Castor is going to give us element damage and then element damage amplification with element damage take and decrease. So not only do we get a big boost in damage, but we get nice defense from that. Acubin is going to be the next one you want to get to 140 blessing, as you get big lightning damage amplification. So the third one I could recommend would be a Leo. The reason I recommend Leo is it's going to give you lots of dodge rate amplification, and it's going to give you projectile damage amplification, which is going to increase the damage of your charge release, which is more important to get higher damage on. So I'd recommend Leo as the third blessing to get 140 on if you can. So Castor and Acubin, definitely most important. Go for those. In terms of what you should be looking for on your actual charms, crit rate and crit damage are the most important too. After that, I would say anything damage or HP related is going to be the next in level of importance. Now, for your avatar, we are going to be picking up Avatar of Sefdar. For our passive skill, we will be taking Enhanced Chaos Resistance. That's going to help us get to Chaos Resist Cap, which can be difficult to do on gear. For our active skill, we're going to be picking up Mental Stimulation, get a big element damage amplification boost. For our links, we'll be using cooldown recovery speed. The cooldown's got to be lower than the duration. And if we don't have that link on, the cooldown is longer than the duration, and we want 100% uptime. So we need that link. unless we have a relic that can drop the cooldown for us. For the next link, we have 3 options. Recovery is nice because it's good sustain. It can give us more HP, more mana. So it'll get 4% of either HP or mana, depending on which one is lower. So nice for sustain. Increased buff effect will give us 20% mental stimulation effect. So that will increase the damage of our element damage amplification. Also increases the damage taken increase there. So keep that in mind. And then the other one I'd recommend is enhanced damage decrease, which is nice defensive right there. Damage taken decreased by 4%. So those are all good. And then the next passive that you're going to want to get is going to be Avatar of Leo. You're going to want the enhanced attack speed to help you get the attack speed and movement speed buff, which is really nice. And then for the third one, we're going to be picking up Acumen. So once you get to level 30, you will get this enhanced lightning penetration. You'll get a big boost in lightning damage and lightning pen. So that's what we want for the avatars. So that's it. That's the entire build. Charged Whirlwind. Spin to win. Easy to use, effortless, laid back, man. I love this build. I love using Whirlwind, and it's really, really strong right now in this season with Charged Release. So if you have any questions or if I've missed anything, drop something in the comments. I will get back with you on it, but it is time to get back to the grind. So I will catch you guys later.